So last week I recorded a new episode about the metal element in Chinese medicine and all of its characteristics and how it supports you or where you can find misalignment or out of alignment metal element characteristics in your life and how to, find balance in that and what that all means. And one of the main characteristics of of this metal element is grief, right? So the metal element in Chinese medicine, its organ systems are the lung and large intestine. The lungs have a direct relationship to the emotion of grief, right? So I've been thinking a lot more about this episode, and I can only give so much information in whatever it is, 20 minutes that I do these episodes, because there's so much more. But coincidentally, I was scrolling Instagram and I saw this Oprah was interviewing Tyler Perry, who I believe just wrote a book on grief or his experience and there was somebody in the audience when she was interviewing him recently. There was somebody in the audience, coincidentally, her name was Dianne with two N's. And she was talking, she didn't even get to say much because she started crying, but she said she basically had just lost her mom and she started crying and Tyler's like, hey, and she started apologizing for crying, which is like such society. Like I get it. I used to think that crying was like weakness and that there was strength in not crying. I have a whole story around that that is not necessarily relevant, but I get that. And I think women do that, they apologize for way too much shit. But she was apologizing for crying. And then Tyler like immediately stepped in and said, do not apologize. This is grief. This is real. And he talked about his experience, how he tried to suppress the grief and suppress the tears and suppress the emotions. And he said, but guess what? When you're not looking, these are not his exact words, but at some point, the grief finds you. It's waiting for you. And I was like, oh, damn. I was like, I get that because when my mom died in 1999, it was literally a month. I was in my 30s. It was a month before I was starting graduate school to get my master's in Chinese medicine. And I had also just bought my own first house. I was a single mom. I had to work part-time because I couldn't, I had to do all the things, right? So I remember in my first semester, I cried once. And it was I forget what kind of class it was. I think it might have been like a Qigong class or something like that. And some emotion came up and I had what I now know as plum pit sensation. So this sensation in your throat. And I said, God, I have this feeling in my throat, I said to the instructor, and she's like, well, has there been an experience lately where perhaps where you did not express a feeling or an emotion? And I just like started bawling in that moment. And I was like, and then I realized, oh, this was my stupid mind saying, I don't have time for crying. Like, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for this grief. I get it. Like, I'm sad. I know I'm sad, but I have to take care of my kid. My school load is incredible. I'm picking up my kid. I'm making dinner. I'm getting her to school. I'm going to school. I'm going to work. I'm negotiating a lot in my life. I don't have time for grief. I don't have time. I can't take time to grieve and cry. Well, let me tell you something. After I graduated, it found me. It was waiting for me. It was waiting for me in a way that was not great. When I graduated school, mind you, school is very stressful. Those 3 years year round. At that time, normally it's a 4-year program. I did it in 3. I was balls to the wall, and I was in my 30s. And when I graduated, I was 37 years old. I was probably the most unhealthy I have ever been. I had a yoga teacher who was a friend of mine who I started to practice near her yoga studio, and she said, "You have a body of an old lady." Like I literally couldn't lay over a bolster without being in pain. And and then I had I thought I was having a heart attack one day. And I know it's not funny, but because I got this sensation in my back and it wrapped around my chest and felt like it was crushing my chest, and I was in so much pain. And I remember I felt so bad because it was between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and we were trying to my daughter wanted to decorate the tree, and I was just like in the fetal position because I was in so much pain. I think I took 8 Advil, not joking. I was in so much pain. I didn't know what to do. And I didn't know what it was, but turns out it's something called costochondritis, which is inflammation in the ribs in the little muscles between the ribs. And it can mimic what feels like a heart attack. It's crazy. So I dealt with that, and I went in for different testing at the cardiologist. And it turns out I had PVCs, premature ventricular contractions. And I was just like, I don't remember disease being a thing in our family, right? So I was just like, cancer, yes, this, no. And so I just got to work at that point. I was like, okay, it's time to get real. And I slowly but surely started doing all the things that I tell my patients to do, right? Started changing my eating habits, exercising more, did a bunch of yoga, started cycling. And at that time I became a vegan. I'm not a vegan anymore, but I was a vegan for 3 years. So I started doing all those things, and slowly but surely, my health got better and better and better and better. So, and I started crying again. Hi. So, and then I felt like, oh man, I feel like I have 4 years of waterworks to process. And so that stuff waits for you. The grief waits for you. And I realized, I was also realizing and taking another step forward to where we are today, like in menopause, in midlife, this stage of our life, there might be a bunch to grieve, right? Maybe we're losing our parents, our kids are moving out, our jobs are changing, our bodies are changing. So there's a lot of things, maybe our relationships changing. So there's a lot of things that have the potential to show up in the emotion of grief. And so I just want to watch that metal element, because it talks a lot about some of the ways to support that from a Chinese medicine perspective. So what I recommend is to just allow it. A healthy metal element means that you are processing grief in a healthy way, right? If it starts defining you, if it starts taking over your life, if it starts, if there's an extreme where it goes, I mean, that might happen for a short time, and that's fine. You might feel like, I just want to cry. I just want to lay in bed. Do you, boo? Like, but any extreme, not grieving at all or letting it just define you and keep you paralyzed from life, is not good. So there's a happy medium, but I just wanted to share, like, this time in our lives is really, there's a lot of transformation. There's a lot of transition. There's a lot that's happening. So I want you to honor that and be okay with that. And I hope this is helpful. Just a little added extra bonus of something I was thinking about. Okay. Peace.